My name's, as you know, Wajakoya. I'm a Kenyan. I was born in 1959, October 24th. My parents divorced when I was a young boy. And then a lot of things happened. Many years down, I found myself in the streets of Nairobi. And after that, I was taken by Hare Krishna Hare Rama. Became a devotee, and they took me to school. And then Mr. Ramlal Sharma of City High School, Ram Lal Sharma, the principal of City High School, who was also a worshipper in the temple, took charge of me and took me to his school. He gave me a small place to stay in order to go to school. Some jobs that I did, manual jobs. I finished Form 4, and then J.J. Kamodo took me as his son, the late minister for, then he was basic education. Jonathan Ngeno was higher education. Then he paid for my fees for Mumia's boys, Form 5 and Form 6, 80, 81. And after that, I did not have good grades to go to the university because it was a new school. But however I tried, I missed university by 2 points. Then later on, I joined the Kenya Police as a police constable, where I found people like Mbugwa, the current director, Deputy Inspector General of Police. I found the current regional police commander in Nyeri, and many others who are in senior rank. After our initial training in Kiganjo, as a constable, I was posted to Central Police Station, Nairobi. Then, after serving, we were called back to Kiganjo because of the A level. And then again, I met my friend Mbugwa, the Deputy Inspector General, in the same class. Then after that, I came and worked at Pangani Police Station. Then I went to Kasarani Police Station. I worked for some time before I joined the Intelligence, Directorate of Security Intelligence. By then it was known as a Special Branch. Then having worked for many years there, I got a scholarship to go and study in KIA for 1 year, study French, with the current ambassador of Iran, Mr. Gatimu, Joshua Gatimu, who was also my colleague. Then after that, again, we excelled in exams at Kenya Institute of Administration, which is now currently University of Nairobi in Kabete, and went to University of Burundi for advanced diploma in French. Then when I came back, I was put to be in charge of Dr. Uko. For the first time, I will speak about Uko as we continue. I've never spoken before, but today I will speak, if you allow me. Because of the honor I have for the Daily Nation, I think this is the first time that I want to speak my mind. When Uko was murdered, there was a lot of contradictory stories. Then I was commissioned by Mr. Kanyotu, the then director of intelligence, a good man indeed. I think he trusted me. And he asked me to find out from the system who might have been involved. And we did what we did. And then there was some attempt to cover up Uko's story. But as usual, I was on the resisting side because you cannot alter or doctor the gadgets that we were using, especially the telephone communications that we were using by that time. And I'm speaking for the first time because I'm going to be the president of this country, and people are going to ask, what did you know? Even though I will not give the specific details. Today you are here for my presidential candidature. And when we found out what we found out and the coverage, those who wanted us to cover, and the change of guard in the intelligence by that time, when Kanyotu was retired, Kivuvani took over, things went upside down. And then I was detained, tortured and tortured properly. And it was as a result of that that the U.S. Embassy, through Smith Hempstone, who was again agitating with the people like Raila Odinga, Paul Mwite, Gitobi Manyara, when they were agitating for change in this country. That's the time when all of us were circled, them from the political wing and us from the intelligence wing. So the torture was so enormous that I couldn't survive, so I was taken to hospital. Mockery to the Force Memorial Hospital with an envelope. And the main intention, I don't know what was in that envelope. But what I saw is that there was a big shock of a man who was actually there. I cannot name his name, but he was a good man. He was a brigadier doctor in the army in charge of duties at the Force Memorial Hospital. So he whisked me away in another room. And those who took me there was very suspicious. Probably that was an attempt to clear me off, because a lot of my colleagues were killed in different, and nobody has ever come out to challenge this. Well, after that, with a lot of issues that were going on, sometimes they could blindfold me. Before I was taken to hospital, they could blindfold me in a place I didn't know, then open my site at the city mortuary at night. And that's why I inhaled eczema. So that was maximum psychological torture, emotional torture. And as God may have planned for me to escape, the Americans through Smith Armstrong assisted me. They took me to wherever, and I found myself in Germany. I left by Lufthansa, cargo plane. I never knew what was going on. And am I boring you?
No. In fact, I wanted to ask so much about the UCO commander.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Then I definitely ended up in Britain on the way to the United States, but there was a lot of things that happened which I'm not going into details. So the British decided to retain me, and 3 weeks after that, Ndolo Aya, the then Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Elijah Mwangali, the then Minister for Agriculture, were dispatched to London to find out whether I could be extradited back to Kenya. But as fate will make it, media, you guys, media, saved my life, because something went into the media, and Glenda Jackson, MP for Hampstead and Keith, and also some serious journalists from the Times newspaper in London, and the tabloids took over my story, and it became a trending story in London at that particular time, and that's what saved me. So I lived quietly. I was given a different name, and I was taken to a place of the homeless in Camden Town, where I stayed with the homeless people to cover me not to be recognized until it was right for me to now go to school. But then going to school was another issue. But I have also to thank Honorable James Orengo and Mr. Ward, the father of Julie Ward, for playing a critical role in sending my papers from schools here to enable me to go to school. Orengo is a great man. Orengo is one of those people that I will mention wherever I go as good people and men of honor. I'm also thankful to Raila Odinga. That particular time he was an MP, I think, and also Mrs. Ndetei. Mrs. Ndetei, I think, was an MP, for taking over the story and going to Parliament to table it. The rest you can find out. This is a true story, and I have to insist it's a true story. Then the Moi regime took what they could do. They took us to court. They took the Times to court. They took any newspaper that I had spoken to court, and Biwott and other people. And then in the long run again, I found myself at the University of Wolverhampton, Holborn College, but I didn't have the fee. So I had to do manual jobs, to do grave digging. I was a security guard, and life went on as normal under the name George Walker. George Walker, which appeared in all my documents. I can reveal because it's over 30 years now. Then I finished my bachelor's of law degree, and I went on and did what I did. Went to many universities, became an academic, became a foot soldier for Raila's father, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, when he came to be treated for his eyes, when he was being treated by Dr. Wino, who is still alive. He's a surgeon in London. and the late Osumbalangi, who was also giving the late Jaramogi accommodation. And that's when now we became custodians of Raila Odinga whenever he came to London. Sir David Steele, who is now Lord Steele, who was the leader for Liberal Democrats, actually made a ring for us to follow Raila, to make sure that he was not attacked, even though the British government was also doing its work, as we were careful with him wherever Kenyans' gatherings were. So Raila owes me a lot, and I respect him a lot on that one. After that, I became a lawyer, raised my family, and I received a lot of threats in London, which I'm not going to go in details. The case of Dr. Uko is still in court. Couldn't go beyond what is in court, and I knew you were going to ask me that. I will preempt you in advance. So that's where we go as far as that is concerned. American, she works in the US, where she stays now, and I'm here.
How many?
I don't want to name. Probably when I die there will be more, so I'll be doing a disservice. You know, we lawyers, when we die, like my friend, the late Juma, a lot of children came out, but I believe that my children are just the same ones I have. I don't have any things out there. And I have a daughter here. Her name is Maureen, whom I had before I left. And we are in communication.
For a long time you were
In exile for so many years,
so many.
from 1991 you can count, until 2012 when I came back. While in exile, I joined the pressure groups to put pressure on Kenya. And when I was a student leader at the University of London, School of Oriental and African Studies, I invited the likes of Dennis Akumu, the late Dr. Liki, Koigi Wamwere, and we put a lot of pressure on Moi. So we fought for the second liberation. But because at that time there was a lot of issues here, nobody would recognize that, but Raila recognizes that. Then I worked quietly, and I went to various universities to study. And I became accustomed to being a security guard. I mean, that was the best thing, and digging graves. It gave me that harmony, whereby I could do my work. I loved it. I also worked at the Royal Free Hospital as a morgue attendant, where the late Wamalu, whose home is this one, was taken many years later. And I also watched those red buses. Let me say I did all the jobs that people do. And that was the best thing that happened to me. It matured me up. And I became involved in a lot of liberation struggles for South Africa, Ethiopia, the Eritrea. Also part of the Angola, involved in the Angola struggle. I was also involved in the SWAPO struggle. And I was also involved in the struggle here. Wanted to bring up change by force, by teeth, by arms. We did what we wanted to do, to bring justice. While the groups of Railas were fighting here, us with others were fighting from outside. And we were prepared. We were prepared to do whatever it could take to bring down the then dictatorial government. And that became something that has helped me to earn a lot of marks with world leaders who are struggling. We were also part of the George Rawlings group, pressure group. We did a lot of things in West Africa, which I'm not going to divulge. And we've done a lot of things in East Timor. We were part of the support group, supporting the Timorians to become independent from Indonesia by contributing money, so getting money and contributing. We have also done quite a lot of things in this Africa, the countries that I'm not going to mention. But when I became a practitioner, a legal practitioner, the crusade now changed from armed struggle, because I was agitating for overthrow of some regimes in different parts of the world. Then I joined Sub-Commandant Marcos to liberate the Chiapas from Mexico. I also worked indirectly or directly with the Sinn Féin, the Irish Republicans who are trying to fight in Britain. I think I was the only black one who was associated with Jerry Rawlings and McGuinness. And when the nation of Ireland became free, Northern Ireland became free, I think I also became free. And I learned a lot of things from people who were in exile. I was part of the Southern Sudanese Liberation Movement. Because I didn't have so much to do other than going to school, working as a grave digger and what have you, and then fighting to liberate and democratize some of these nations. So my hand is everywhere. I've been received by many governments as a true friend of the Sudanese people during Garang's regime. I've been received by the Museveni government. I don't want to go into details. I've been received by Nigerians as an advisor to the former president, Jonathan Goodluck. You can check those facts. I've been received in Ghana. And I remember when there was an attempted coup, so-called imaginary attempted coup on Moi, there are those people who were taken to Uganda. I was part of the team that pushed them from Uganda to Ghana. And that's why I've been very close to Jerry Rawlings. And I'm happy to be home because what we wanted has come to pass.
Tell us about how you came back to Kenya in 2012.
Yes, I talked to my American friends. I talked to congressional members. I talked to some members of the House of Lords in London. And I also talked to some international organizations to speak to the Kenyan government to guarantee my return. Because by that time, Kibaki was the president, Moi was still alive, Biwott was still alive. And I didn't know what was going to happen. So my first coming to run for president was not realistic. It was to cover me, to be present. So one of the things that we planned out there is that I come and announce as a presidential candidate. Then we formed a political party which was refused registration. And I am thankful to President Kibaki, and I'm not going to go into details. What I know is that my security was guaranteed, and I'm also thankful to Uhuru Kenyatta, but most importantly, Raila Odinga, because Raila knows a lot about me, and Raila did not want to put me up front. He did not want to identify himself with me for my own security, because part of the people that I had named as killers of Dr. Huko are still alive, of which I'm not going to name, but it was that time I was gagged by the courts. So Raila played a big role in my life here because, one, if he had identified me, or identified himself with me, could have been cooked meat. So his wisdom also kept me moving. And the Odinga family, I can assure you, even if we are on the ballot today, his pushing me aside was well intended and calculated. His father, whom I helped so much as his foot soldier, also encouraged me to move on. He used to call me Ruat. Ruat in my language means Shimos, and a small calf. He came one day and he told me, son, thank you. The only thing I can do for you, he liked to eat morenda and ile ugali ya wimbi. And he tell me, son, Mom, when I go back to Kenya, I'm going to speak to Masinde Mliro. Masinde must come and see you. Masinde will come and see you, Ogwebi. So we organized and Masinde came to see me through Oginga Odinga himself. And then things happened and he died. And I will speak on Masinde's issues when the right time comes as well.
So we're still in...
They are the remnants of the mentors. Of course they are there, but majority of them have died. Bad luck. I have nothing to do with their death. Some of them just died when I'm still alive. And What can I say? Unfortunately, they died when I had returned.
Could you mind naming some of those who have died?
No, I cannot, as I said before.
Okay. When you assume presidency, will you revenge on the remnants?
We shall decide to do when we arrive there.
Okay. So what does that mean?
Well, let's wait until I become the president, then you'll see what I have in my boot. I can't reveal because I don't know whether I will win or not.
Okay. Now that you have stayed outside the country for so long, what's your allegiance?
My allegiance is to God only and God.
Okay. As an immigration lawyer, what's your view on Miguna?
Miguna is my client and I wouldn't say anything. He's my client.
Okay. Should you assume power, would you bring him back?
I'll bring him to swear me.
Okay. Wow.
Because he's my potential Chief Justice. He deserves better than that. He's a human being, he's a Kenyan, his rights have been violated, the courts have been on with him, and I feel so pained whenever I speak with him that I'm speaking when Miguna is away. Miguna is supposed to be here. Miguna should be participating in the elections. But you know what? This world is a very small world. If you do something to someone and you pain that person, that pain comes back to you. We can say by what we have seen. From independence, there are people who suppressed others for so long, but what happened to them? Look at Njonjo when he was suppressing people. Where is Njonjo? Look at Gigi Kariuki. Look at Biwot. All these people who are suppressing Miguna are going to die. And Miguna will come back to attend their funeral.
When was the last time you spoke to him?
Last week? Let me check. I'll confirm now. Yeah, here it is. You can see, even Saturday, I sent him this, and I even sent him an invitation to come for my inauguration, thinking that God will bring him. And then on Friday, that was on Friday. Now, here is communication. Where is it? When he said, Omwami, yeah, here. On Friday, 28th January, yeah, hello, it is 10:45 a.m. here. I've just called you, but there was no answer. That's Miguna calling me.
Oh, yeah.
And then I responded, just returned from Lamu to Mombasa. I had left my phone deliberately, and I think you know why. We can talk. So we talk. Do anything. Maybe you could have asked me whether I've stolen, whether I've been involved in corruption, or caused any scandals. My answer to you is that I've not done that. Number two, I don't want to speak for myself, but you can research. Yes. And I don't want to justify why. Because I'm a Kenyan, sane, and within the limits of Constitution. And then I don't want to say those that have helped because I'll be bragging. But I cannot say, what have I done? You have seen what I've told you. You have heard what I've told you that I was doing in London. Doesn't that just be enough?
I thought you would add some.
No. No. I don't want to speculate or to lie to the Kenyans. Because a lot of people come up and say, I want to be the president, I feel I'm fit. Let the people themselves decide by I talking to them and them listening to me and them making the judgment. But I'm not going to stand here and start just stamping, I'm educated, I'm a lawyer. That's nonsense. I'm just that common person who is a grave digger, who is trying to make a living and justifying that I have a right also as any other Kenyan to join the process.
I intended to know your stance or your views on the handshake.
I think the handshake was good to those who handshaked themselves because they didn't involve me and they did not call me. I'm a leader of a political party.
Your view on him as a Kenyan.
I would say my view as a political stakeholder, because I'm a leader of a political party, I ought also to have been called. But the issues of shaking hands for 2020, and I'm looking at 2096, I'm looking at Kenya in sustainability. 50 years from today, where will we be? I don't want to look at Kenya on 2022 so that I can look at power sharing and what we can do. So I don't think whether I'm the best person to comment on BBI because I was not consulted.
Okay, you are getting into a race that has so many people.
Wait until you reach there because I could be a front runner.
Again, you intend to vie on the Roots Party.
I'm vying on the Roots Party.
How far and wide is it?
How? Well, I cannot also say because I don't have a yardstick to measure how many people know it. I just had my NDC on Saturday, and I had 128 delegates from 47 counties, 128 here in Nairobi.
So what are your manifestos?
Weed. Number one on my manifesto is we have accumulated a lot of debt in this country and people are just playing. And the only way to bring it out, to pay off this and then investigate those who got us into this mess and take them to court, if not by firing squad, because it will depend, because I'm suspending the constitution. We need to grow weed as soon as possible for three things. Number one, exports for industrial purposes because of the pricing today. Number two, medicinal purposes. And number three, for heritage purposes. Heritage purposes will be decided by those who grow it, because they will also be involved. You cannot grow something that you cannot be asked how you want it to be used. So that will be up to the farmer to tell Kenyans that yes, I'm growing it, but then also I need it to be used this way, so that regulations can be tailored specifically to the wants of farmers and those who are consumers. But this notion of people saying that, oh, our kids are going to die in school, people are going to smoke it, yes, there's nothing wrong with smoking marijuana. I've never smoked, but when you legalize, I'll be the first one in the State House to puff it. And I'll also puff it after I've been sworn in, after we legalize. Now, one thing is this, we have cigarettes. Mr. Morris, what is the other name? Morris, the biggest manufacturers of cigarettes in the world, have been fined so many times in international courts for violating international health conditions. They have come up to re-advertise cigarettes, in that when you buy a cigarette today and you read on the package, it gives you the line of your death. They say if you smoke me this much, you're going to get cancer and you'll die. If you look at the products that are manufactured from ganja, allow me to make reference, you'll find out that the purpose of this is they are used for the healing of the nation. Healing of the nation. Jamaica has used it very successfully to heal the nation. Have you heard that Jamaica has mad people? Have you heard that Jamaica has buried many people who have died of marijuana? Let us not be carried away with the smoking aspects of marijuana. Let us concentrate on the economic and commercial value. When you look at hemp, hemp is one of the most viable products that makes the strongest paper, very high quality paper, very high quality fiber, and they also they give very, very efficient medicine, which is now used by PISA to cure corona. And that's why PISA in 2020, they bought up a cannibalist company for $670 million US dollars, I think billion of US dollars, that they could stabilize the community by manufacturing a drug that was viable. If you look at America, for example, today, they are doing away with painkillers. The states that have legalized marijuana have been given an option to do it for medicinal purposes. We don't have a lot of lunatics like we had before, and this in accordance with scientific research. All you need to do is go in the shop, get it prescribed for you, and then smoke it. That's number one. Number two, most of multinational corporations in New York now are opening up smoking hours for their employees, in that employees now can go and smoke marijuana in designated areas. There is also precautions that have been taken in the US whereby people in particular trade are not allowed to smoke marijuana while on duty, pilots and people in transportation businesses. But that's not what I'm looking at. What I'm looking at is the commercial importance of this industrial manufacturing that includes ropes, textiles, clothing, shoes. And the best part of it is that it's a natural solution for soil replenishment and decontamination. Where marijuana is grown, it doesn't need manure. It's grown in such a way that it grows itself. It's a God's plant. It's a plant that cures the environment. But when a white man came, what he did was very bad. Well, he found out that green gold would make African countries to prosper. They had to put a note on it and say, this is bad for your health, this is not right, this is repugnant. And the late Professor Okoth Ogendo would turn into his grave when he hears the words that I'm saying today. Repugnancy clauses were put in that those who associate themselves with marijuana are evil. My great-grandfather, Luchiri, whom I'm named after, lived for 110 years. He had 50 wives, and he never went to hospital. And if you look at his sons, including my grandfather, they lived for a very long time because they used to use it. Now, in our community today, you find out that 90% of our people here smoke marijuana indirectly. But what is intriguing is the debt we get every day. We borrow 2 billion shillings every day. The Chinese have come in this country and they're taking over Africa like hell. The debt that the Chinese has given us, it will take us 100 years to pay. And if you look at the kids who will be born tomorrow or day after tomorrow, they will be born in debt. The collateral that the Chinese have been given will take over this country. This has given the Chinese free will to do what they want in this country. They walk freely, they don't speak our language, they even discriminate our children, discriminate us in their restaurants, and then they put a small rail, a small tin, a small line, a small metal from Mombasa to Naivasha to put up indigenous Kenyans businesses like transportation, where the issue of monopoly comes in. I'm going to pay off the Chinese in a very short time because one sack of bananas, another one of fish, another sack of vegetables, and a sack of ganja. Which one is of more value? If you look at ganja, one sack is about $3.4 million. So if you grow an acre, or you go and zone areas like Mount Kenya, where it grows itself, Kisii, Bunyore, and Nyamira, 1,000 acres will be enough. You grow it, since it grows only for 4 months. It grows only for 4 months, and it kills weeds, eliminates the need for costly and toxic herbicides. Come on, every Kenyan will be happy. Every Kenyan will be happy. We shall have enough money to pay off all other debts and then have our country free. And likely, I think after paying them, I'll ask them to leave. But before I ask them to leave, I'll look at the contract that the Chinese have signed. I want to know who actually signed those contracts and what was the terms of engagement. If we find out that there are some crooks, and I believe there are, who lured us to go to China, to lose our heritage, to have this country as a wastage country, where we have contrabands coming in, and then toxic waste being deposited here in terms of goods imported from China without verification, I'll put them in jail. That's number one. Number two, ganja will actually also minimize corruption, because you can grow it in a tin in your bedroom. You can grow it in your bathroom. You can grow it in anywhere. You don't need to do anything. So the main key tasks, which is of immediate importance, is to legalize marijuana and ask Kenyans why it has taken them so long under the illusionary mindset set up by the Europeans, who have now legalized it, and legalizing it, and then blending it and selling it to Africa, the same way they have done to our tea from Kericho, made in Brook Bond in London. The threshold is brought to Kenya and the purified tea is taken into their hotels. The same way they have done to our coffee plantations in Central Province. I mean, it is high time that Africans stood up and stood for themselves. That is number one. Number two, and before I go to that, I can see Ruto also now coming up with growing avocados and selling to China to eliminate debt. But I will have him explain that when we meet for presidential debate, so I'm not going to speak on that. Number two, look at our infrastructure in the country. Look at the pollution of Nairobi. Look at how many counties you have. We are going to reduce the country back to what it was when Kenyatta took over the country. We have 7 or 8 provinces. We are going to make states. We are going to form a federal government so that we can do proper devolution, whereby each state will have a chief minister. Of course, I was misquoted by somebody saying that I said 8 prime ministers. No, chief ministers, so that counties will run under the state, so that we eliminate this issue of county commissioners, eliminate this issue of government bureaucracy, so that we have elected leaders to run those the state and the counties, and also have revert back to the city mayors or town hall mayors, so that it can allow people to discuss what they want to discuss pertaining to. We are also going to have regional heritage. If you go to Nigeria, for example, the Ondo State number plates for their vehicles actually gives their identity. Somebody is driving knowing that I am from Ondo State. But the most fundamental issue when it comes now to my administration will be federalism and instrumentalities of federalism, in that if you have freeways passing from one state to another state, they will also have to pay taxes as they go on. We shall have federal tax and we shall also have state taxes. But we shall only have these taxes up to the time when we shall accumulate our first harvest in Bangi, which will actually minimize. And also working conditions. The Muslims are deprived of. They are the most deprived of people in this country. We need to have them given a free Friday to worship like any other person. Then we need the Seventh-day Adventists to worship on Saturday, as they always do, and other Christians, Pentecostals, Roman Catholics to worship on Saturday, so that we have some kind of freedom in a 24-hour economy. A 24-hour economy where people will work on shifts and move on, but then on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they have time for their children and time to do what they want and for their leisure. And then also, we have to look at this constitution. We need to suspend it for 6 months so that we can go back to Kenyans and ask them what went wrong with the judiciary arm of the constitution, what went wrong with the legislators, what went wrong with the executive. Look at the judiciary. It has ashamed us. And I'm not ashamed to say that because I'm one of the senior lawyers. And as a matter of fact, today I was teaching more than 200 advocates in whatever I was teaching them this afternoon before coconut. Mnazi imetumika kwa miaka mingi sana na watu wa Mombasa. Tafadhali tuwarudishie watengeneze pombe yao ya mnazi, wauze, wapate faida. Ukienda in terms of agriculture also, look at the fishing. This is a shame. This is a shame. The Luo community has been deprived of a lot of economic rights, and I'm singling them out, not because I'm a Luo. I am not a Luo, but I'm speaking for those who have voice like. Why would we have a fish processing plant in Thika on fish that has been mined from Lake Victoria? And then after processing is when it's taken back to Luo land to be sold at an exorbitant price. For God's sake, why? That's a question somebody needs to answer. Which means that when it comes to fish farming, we shall have an inclusive policy, cooperative societies, and we shall have enough money from marijuana to empower fishermen to do what they have to do at the lake, at the source. Number two, we have indigenous lands that grow some very excellent rosadiac treatment roots. Mukombera is something that is very, very key and valuable to Aluya. Now you can see that it has been patented by a certain company in America, which has taken over traditional rights. If you come to infrastructure, let us go to states and ask the states to do to debate on what they want to be done in those regions. Tourism industry is what makes us to move on after agriculture. Are we taking care of our animals, or are we extinguishing them and taking land away from the indigenous places where animals can move freely? How much do we get from that, and how do we account for it? Nobody's telling us how much revenue we got from tourism last year. So that's why I want to empower states like Rift Valley, for example. We've been in charge of Rift Valley resources, in that whatever is mined from or whatever is harvested from a region has to be debated in parliament or in state parliament, so that the people themselves decide how much do we give to a federal government instead of the status quo. Like currently now, what normally happens is that money is harvested from counties are taken to the central government, to the treasury, for the treasury now to count how much to give back. Let us give money proportionate by empowering those who actually are the main beneficiaries to have a say as to why they want to develop themselves and develop their own budget. Let it go small to the federal government, and if federal government wants to actually raise funds, let them come up with a regime of double taxation. They can have foreign federal funds because of instrumentalities of commerce, whereby goods moving from one county to another county, if from one state to another state, in that case, in my government, let the state tax federal line of engagement, instrumentalities of commerce, and let also the federal government also tax. And that's the only way that they will be able to raise their funds. Now, when it comes to manufacturing and middle-class economy, which we are going to create, let us look at the tax rebate. Let us move cities to other areas, semi-arid areas, and then give them tax rebate. Let's actually have a tax regime, a tax regime that will attract investors in areas like Marsabit, in areas like Isiolo. In my opinion, we are going to ask Kenyans whether they want a new city, so that Nairobi can become a commercialized industrial city. We need an administrative city, so that you can move away all these members of parliament, what have you, to put them there to engage themselves there, that we minimize corruption. And after all, if we do what Tanzania did with the Dodoma, which is the new city of Dodoma, it built parliament there, it built government infrastructures there, and it also put a housing system for members of parliament when they are adjudicating. But what about industrial, what about agricultural privatization? Let's privatize. Let us have a privatized and competitive economy. The issue of Minister for Agriculture staying in Nairobi with a lot of officials in Nairobi should be devolved to the states, so that we can actually have people to become stakeholders, to buy in, stay in, and be part of it. Let's look at the 50-year economy from today, sustainable economy. We have energy. We can harvest energy and do away with the electricity, geothermal. Let us look at the sun and harvest from the sun. Let us go to the moon and find out what is there, so that we can see whether we can have an is it economically viable for us to start space exploration? What about energy coming in with the internet technology, so that we can actually reduce the cost of traveling every day to work, so that we work from where we are, like what has happened in Seoul in South Korea, and what has happened in Japan, as well as Singapore, which was a very poor country, as well as Malaysia, which was a very poor country, poorer than Kenya, borrowed from Kenya to become rich, and us, we stayed in corruption, cocoon of tribalism, and what have you. Regime, thinking like an Englishman. And look at the security forces in this country. Look at the police. The police are the most deprived of human beings in this country. It is planned for them. They are not asked to consent to what is being planned for them. The Constitution is very clear. Stakeholder engagement is part of our Constitution. When somebody decided to make those ugly uniforms for the police, after he toured China and he came back and saw Chinese in blue uniform, and then you drink there and you say hallelujah, how do they speak? Onichiwa, you come in and now you sit after you have taken whatever you have taken, and then you say, no, from today we shall constitute a commission on police to come up with the police reforms. And then part of what you have brought from China is a Chinese uniform, making our policemen look like whatever. And then you come up and you also say that policemen now can go and stay in estates. You don't give them enough remuneration. What can 15,000 do as house allowance for a police officer in Nairobi? Look at the guy who died, one of the officers who died who was murdered recently from the Ruto's team, the police officer who was actually guarding Ruto. Where was he murdered? In a bed seat, because he couldn't afford. And he was a sergeant in that case. If you get a sergeant in Britain, he stays like a king. That's why we're going to have equity for the police. You leave Kiganjo, you are given a loan to buy a house to settle your family, or if you choose to buy a piece of land to settle your family, so that you can have morale to serve the nation. Not you now being transferred from Masai Mara, I don't know, to Elwak police station in Garissa or in Northeastern or in Mandera, and then uprooting your family with you all the time wherever you go. And then when you come back, especially when you have been transferred from hardship area to Nairobi, you are not given a grace period to actually relax, like what happened in the army. What happens in the army? You come in from Mandera tomorrow, you rest for 2 days, tomorrow you are told go to work. You have not had that time to adjust. And that's why you see a lot of things happening in the police. And then people say, police wanajishutu wenyewe. Let us find out. Let us find out the treatment to the police. Let's have counseling services for the police. They are human beings. They work like any other person. Let us remunerate them the way I'm going to remunerate scribes, journalists. Journalists are the least paid. There are many. It's a profession which is the fourth estate in this country. But guess what? The media monopoly by a few individuals who own almost everything. I'm going to cut down on that so that journalists will become stakeholders wherever they will be working, to have that ownership in them. The scribes are the poorest in the whole country. And now politicians have taken advantage of that, knowing that, oh, no. Like you have come to cover me today. Then when you finish, I give you money. That's corruption. But I can give you goodwill if I want to. So now that has become a line of engagement. But does it mean that journalists are wrong? If somebody gives you money, will you refuse? But why not refuse when you have enough money? So you grow enough marijuana, enough money. Journalists, if they will not be made to be part of the stakeholders in those media companies, I'll give them money to start their own media companies. I'll give them interest-free loans. Go and start your own. Be proud. Be an independent entrepreneur. Don't be used by these politicians. They will use you and dump you, and then you go home staying in Kawangware, what is it, Umoja, those sides, those pigeon homes. Yet you are a man of profession who has gone to the university, can't even afford to pay your own help loan, which you have taken. And I will rub off the help loans for students when we get enough money from selling our wheat, making our country free. I will be a minister for immigration, because immigration has become a laughing stock in this country. Foreigners are treated very badly when they make application to naturalize, to vary their status. It takes forever. I'm dealing with the cases here in my office, where people who applied for citizenship 8 years ago have not even found out where their soul is. Because when applications go to the immigration, they are not told of the procedure. They are not assured on when to come back or when their matters will be resolved. Sometimes they are told, oh, it went to the intelligence. I will remove the intelligence from the immigration. I'll want systems that work, where foreigners, when they come in this country to invest, let them invest with the conditions that can make them spur the economy. I'll also look at the Indians. They've forgotten the Indians. They've been used as sources of corruption. If you go to UK today, you'll find out that the Indians have boomed up the UK economy and the American economy. And how have the British government rewarded them? The Chancellor of Exchequer in London today, who is likely to be the next Prime Minister, is of Asian origin. The Minister for Home Office, Secretary of State for the Home Office, which is a very powerful docket in the United Kingdom, is Ms. Patel, an Asian. The Home Secretary for Health in England is an Asian. Sorry, I'm going too far. And yes, and also the Mayor of London is Asian. If you go to London, the Vice President of the US, if you go to the US, the Vice President is actually Asian. In Canada, the Minister for Defense is Asian. Yet Asians here who contribute, they contribute, or they do the 70% of manufacturing in this country is done by Asians. They're very hardworking, most of them, and yet you cannot even appoint them to any portfolio to encourage them not to export money outside the country. And when they are fleeing the country, exporting money, you call them to be what have you. What are we going to do to have them invest here? Professor Wajakoya has the solution. The Minister for Trade or Commerce will be of Asian origin. My ambassador to India will be a Kenyan Asian. My ambassador to Pakistan will be a Kenyan of Asian. And I'm not the first one to have done that. Museveni has done that. And that's why the economy of Uganda is booming. The relationship between India and Uganda is overboard because the ambassador, the Ugandan High Commissioner to India, is of Asian origin. Let us have these people, recognize them, and also give them their stay. A lot of Asians are paperless. A lot of Somalis are paperless. Yet we have the Congolese people coming in. We have most of foreigners who come in without proper documentation. If you go to Kitengela right now, you'll find a lot of businesses that ought to be done by indigenous Kenyans, not foreigners. And I will be very, very tight on those illegals who come in this country, who want to take advantage of our jobs, who want to take advantage of our situation, who want to export money from here, especially the Nigerian crooks. I'm not talking of the Nigerian in the mainstream because I'm a friend of the Nigerian government, but I'm talking of those crooks who come here and then now make this place to be a drug peddling issue. I'm going to find out from Kenyans whether they will want us to bring in the death penalty so that all the drug pushers will also be shot. They will face a firing squad. They will be given right to be heard. The due process will be followed, and if they are found guilty, why not just shoot them? I'm not afraid to say this because Singapore and the very, very China that has come to revamp our country, if you found corrupt in China, you are hanged or shot. And nobody talks about that. Now when I talk like this, people come out and say, oh, that man has been sent, he's a madman. Oh, let us do like what is happening in Britain. Come on. If Britain has legalized LGBT, homosexuality and what have you, and lesbianism, and they refuse us to legalize ganja, what is good in that? Even though I have nothing wrong with lesbians and homosexuals, they are people. If they choose to do what they want to do, that's none of my area. My child could be one, my daughter could be one, my brother could be one. I'm not going to interfere with that as their human rights. But what I'm saying is that there are some bad manners from some other countries whereby if we want to do our things our own way, the Christian indoctrination into us, this is bad, this is wrong. Now it's good. You'll see Kenyans clapping like sycophants and saying, the Brits have said it's good, bring it. Let us stand as indigenous Kenyans for this country. And for those who are corrupt, those who have looted from this country, you'll run and run even if I die today, but you'll not hide. You'll be found out. Dung report, top of my agenda. Marijuana, top of my agenda. The crooks who have stolen maize from Rift Valley, top of my agenda. Those now who are saying that they want to export avocado to China, let them tell us how they are going to grow it. If the issue of fertilizer is still very fresh in our mind, the issue of maize scandal in Rift Valley is still very fresh in our mind, the issue of recycling civil servants will also end. I will not want to, and I will not do it. I will ask Kenyans to appoint some of these people. I will appoint somebody and ask Kenyans to give their thoughts about the person. Not this thing of saying that, ESCC, what is that thing that you have? There have been that organization or group that sits in Integrity House, that they are the ones now to look into and to investigate you. Mine, wananchi ndio watakuinvestigate. Ukiwa mkora huko Bungoma ama Mumias mahali nimetoka na umeiba, wananchi ndio watariport wewe, waseme huyu mtu ametoa wapi, and you'll have to stand for yourself. Look at what has happened in the KPL, the Kenya Power. Look at what has happened. And then crooks come out of government employment, resign today to go and run for elections, and then become leaders, recycling corruption through that way. That's why in Roots we don't want them. Ketraco. Look at Ketraco. Somebody in Ketraco, a managing director, whoever it is called to appear before Parliament to go and explain stuff. And then this man resigns to preempt that explanation. And now he's running for governor of Kakamega. Really? And then they're going to clear him to run. Really? Not in my government.
Sorry?
Every time. And whenever a constitution is changed, it's the big people who insert clauses, bring in commissions of men like me who have gone abroad to study with suits, then copycast, and then come in and say, do you like this? Just say yes or no, but you're not asked to participate. Participatory role. What I'm trying to say is this. I will suspend the constitution in the first 6 months to ask Kenyans to look at it again, to find out what they want to retain and what they want to. But then somebody, and you are likely to ask me this question, and let me preempt you, because I'm a lawyer, that what will happen with swearing in. I've been asked that stupid question. You'll find out that there's countries who are working without written constitution. Israel uses parliament. New Zealand uses relies on uncodified constitution. UK relies on uncodified and unwritten constitution. Canada is doing the same. So are we going to be the first? I'll work through parliament. I'll have the Migunas to come there and transshape this country to what we want it to be.
Okay, but upon review, after the 6 months, you intend to change the current constitution?
Yes.
Again?
I don't intend to change it. It's the Kenyans who will review and change what they want and what they don't want.
The very Kenyans who are fatigued.
They could be fatigued, but if they are fatigued because corruption is going to end and money is going to come in through plantation of marijuana, they will do it.
So, from a political point of view, does it mean that the constitution is so broken that it needs an urgent fixing?
The constitution we have is a mockery of democracy. 264 pages compared to the US Constitution, which is only on 8 pages. What went wrong? What went wrong to put the entire world in there? Constitution must be progressive. Let people look at what they want and live with it. It's just like the Rastafarians, the German, the men, the holy men of God. When they went to UK, to petition the UK courts to be recognized as Rastafarians, they were told by the High Court, the House of Lords decision, that you have not lived long enough to be constituted as an entity. And therefore, this is a process that takes years, takes precedents, takes statute from Parliament. Let people think and then look at it and see what they want. It's a gradual process. What we are given is what ought to have been given to a country which was 200 years old in independence. Americans are laughing at the Kenyan Constitution. Look at how messy it is when it comes to the judiciary. Too messy. It can't run, it can't function. Acts of Parliament have now been impugnated by the very Constitution. Look at Pakistan, when the army came up and did away with the Constitution, and then asked the Pakistani people during the Zia-ul-Haq's regime to find out what they wanted to do. When the Ali Bhuttos had actually sterilized the Constitution, and the Pakistanis woke up, and they are still debating on their Constitution for the last 30 years on what they want, whether they want to follow the Sharia law, absolutely, or whether they want to do what. Look at the Constitution today. Have Muslims been given any rights apart from the Qadi courts? I'm going to give the Muslims Friday, that they can actually have it as their holiday, every Friday, as I said before. And that should actually come into the Constitution, the working days. We shall talk about it, we shall enact it in Parliament, and then when we are looking at views from the country, let's ask the Muslims, do you really want that Friday for your holiday, or 1 hour every Friday? We are asking the Seventh-day Adventists, do you want to go to church on Friday, yet you worked on Sunday? And when will you sit with your children to harmonize? When will you wash their clothes and prepare them for school? Is Sunday enough? We shall also be asking the Christians, what would you want to be your day of worship? And how do you want it to be? Not what we've borrowed and what has been impaginated. Clapping and laughing like sycophants, that here we have new constitution, just tailored for a few families and a few men and women, to generate them. That is wrong. It's a progressive item, which is practically progressive. Not write it in paper and then tell people that it's progressive, so that you actually undermine the courts by tying them. So the courts are at liberty to look at what they want. You take a case there and they'll say, no, the Constitution is still progressing. We can't do otherwise. We want clarity from Kenyans as to what they want as per the Constitution. Right now I'm a madman when I'm speaking to you, because that's what people think I am. But what I'm telling them, somebody will tell them in the future that you are too much in a hurry going nowhere, yet your country is being looted under the whims of the Constitution. These families, and you know the families I'm talking about, and the few crooks that have become very rich, Why is it that we now have to have them there permanently? Come on, I'll grow enough ganja and give them to go and retire and stay at home. But those who have stolen, I can assure you for free, they'll be tried. And if Kenyans allow and you have a new constitution, we shall have firing squad for the first 2 years to eliminate all this corruption. We need action, not just words and babysitting. Another presidential candidate the other day had saying that, oh, no, we can't go the ganja way. Ganja is bad for our children. We shall now recoup that money that has been stolen to pay Chinese debt. But that money has been taken as a loan. How are you going to recoup? And then how are you going to pay the loans?
Okay. What do you think would be the price of suspending a constitution effectively?
There's no price. It will be suspended and I'll be the president sitting there and the parliament will be there to help me on the way forward. The issue of cost will not arise because it's better we do something and do it once and for all to guarantee the rights and the freedoms of Kenyans from not being stolen from than crying cost and then getting the country looted every day with a debt that is not sustainable, the debt that is going to put the entire generation under type. Collaterals, Zambia, the port is gone. Zambian newspapers, the Chinese have taken them. And you know that now in Zambia they are printing newspapers in Mandarin, forcing Zambians now to study Mandarin to become black Chinese Zambians. Come on, this is a joke.
So, in a country that a rule of law for 6 months.
Who told you? In Israel, do you have a constitution? Do you have a constitution in Britain? Do you have a constitution in Canada? Written constitution? Do you have a constitution in New Zealand?
Are the facts of current concerns?
We have parliament. We shall have parliament and will be sworn in. And parliament will be given legitimate authority. It is parliament that even looked at the constitution to implement and to make rules to run the constitution. There will be no chaos. Who says there will be chaos? How many times has Uhuru suspended ministers? Did the country not run when the ministers were suspended because of corruption, and then he returned some of them again, having been a commission having been formed to look into whether they were corrupt, and then, come on, we can do without. Kenya has reached a breaking point. It's either do or you don't. If it's not done too soon, this country is mortgaged in China for life.
Talk about your 4-day working plan. Do you think Kenyans need to work more?
They need to work more, but they need also to relax more.
Don't you think they need to work more?
Now, what difference will it be between Monday and Friday? When somebody wakes up in the morning and is staying in Kiambu working in Kitengela, by the time he reaches Kitengela, he's taken how much on the road? Then he works, there's tea breaks, then after that there's lunch break, then after that going home. What production is there? We shall have a 24-hour system of work, but for 4 days. There will be no fatigue there. In fact, people will be re-energized and rejuvenated, because now in UK, they are passing legislation for people to work for 4 days. Are they fools? How do we actually have a human being rejuvenate himself? When he works for 5 days a week, and then one of the days he goes to the church, what is he left with? Let's give him a day. Let the Muslims come up and say, okay, we have been discriminated again for many years. We only worship for 1 hour every Friday. We have the whole day. That in itself will give them energy to go back and work double. Because we shall also work out with working times. Will we cut out lunch break? Or will we cut out a tea break? And what time will you come to work and what time will you leave? All that will be worked out by my regime.
Okay.
The people fund themselves. I had 128 delegates that came. Trust me, even from Sengwer. Those people from very far end. They said, I'm there, Mr. Rotich. Mr. Rotich said, I'm a Sangwer. I've been deprived of my rights as a Sangwer. I'm not recognized by the Kenya government. But if this man wants to recognize me, aliuza mbuzi mbili na alikuja. People have been funding themselves, unfortunately. It's like Narendra Modi's campaign. That's the style I've taken. If I want to go to Kajiado, the Roots Party Kajiado delegates will send me a vehicle. That's what I've been doing, for your information. I know that the intelligence is around me, listening to my phones and doing what to know where I'm getting money. It's not that I'm getting money anywhere. I'm telling you that the Roots Party members and sympathizers, and especially the young people, they are over the moon. Like I've been, I was invited in Mombasa the other day, and somebody paid for my airfare. He said, come, and I'll give you a free hotel to stay, because they're excited. So I'm doing the Narendra Modi style, which I'm not going to go into details.
Okay, so then in a layman's language, what's the source of income?
I'm a lawyer. You've seen my office. I have a law firm here. I'm also a lawyer in UK and the US. And I've worked for many years because I'm 62 years.
So, again, what are you doing to reach out to the lecturers?
That's really in me. That's why that's why my party is actually registered in 28 counties. And I've done a lot which I'm not going to speak on camera as to how I reach them.
Those whom you want to violate against the week on the trail, if they move in conical transversing the country, so are you doing that?
Well, I don't necessarily need what they're doing. Otherwise, I'll be recycling myself like them. I have been doing, not that what will I be doing. For the last 2 years, I've been out there talking to the people individually, groups of people, and what have you, and I'm not going to. I speak issues. I don't go to thump my chest and have small kids coming and dancing, and then going to dance there. Then after that, you are not telling me where you got the money from. I'm looking at them and laughing. And trust me, out of the two, and myself and others, only one will be a president. And then we shall have to ask for accountability. Some of those guys have stolen money. Some of them are government projects. Some of them are using government machinery. What do you want me to do? To be like them? I will not. I'm asking Kenyans, I'm talking to Kenyans, who, if you look at the internet, you can see a lot of Kenyans around the world rejoicing, and around in ghettos and what have you, rejoicing and forming their own songs. And they send me those things, and I'm like, are these decoys? Having been in the intelligence, I look at things twice, not only once. I'm never excited. I have to look at something twice to find out where the source is. So maybe that experience also in me is helping up me reach out. Where did the 128 delegates come from? In the launching that I did in Nairobi the other day, they came from the entire country. I have my system, which is working for me. And the media is also good, but it can also be destructive, so let me not rejoice. But I can thank you also for making me reach out.
And then would you mind sharing the campaign plan?
Not at all.
You had it for this.
I have my plans which I am not sharing with anybody, apart from those closer to the campaign.
The secretariat?
I also have a secretariat. Most of my things are chini ya mti.
The recruitment?
Huh?
How do you recruit?
Recruitment, I think the best thing I can do is that I've recruited, right now, I think I could have brought it to you. I have 58,000 members in Roots Party. 50 to 58, I think I will show you. I have it. I've been recruiting, I've been on the ground.
So 58 of 22 million Kenyans.
No, according to the Political Parties Act, each political party is supposed to recruit in 24 counties 1,000 members each. I'm talking of the political parties dimension. But when it comes to the country, I have...
So, well, as you surpass that,
Yes.
then you need close to 50% plus one
Mhm.
of the 22 million voters.
Yes. Now,
How then will you reach that?
Migori alone I have 6,820 registered members. Go to the registrar of political parties and find out what ODM, the main party, has in Migori and UDA. In Nairobi alone, I'm number 3 in registration. In Narok, I'm number 2. In Rift Valley, in some of the counties, I'm leading. So we have the list. We have the list. I cannot share, but unless I ask the registrar of political parties to send it to me. But let me also tell you this: it is not the registered members that vote. ODM has had its own traditional base. Whether people are registered or not registered, they will still vote. When it comes to voting, it's not members of the party that vote for you. It's Kenyans that vote in general. But for purposes of registration, yes, you need at least 1,000 members per county, 24 counties. I'm in 28 counties, fully registered, but I'm in 42 counties, missing a few here and there, which means that I've got my own system within counties. So when it comes to voting, let those who have groups, like I was in Uhuru Park the other day, it was full and I was not covered. Why? It also depends. The media has already shunned me away. Maybe because of marijuana is now when I'm being called. But those people are very oiled and they have oiled the media. So do you want me to be like them? There are Kenyans who are actually looking at me. I've gone to places I've never been covered. How sure are you that I was not in Pokot the other day and only TV47 covered me and K24? Say? No, Nation did not cover. They covered me only the other day. But on Nation TV, Nation newspaper, you covered. Maybe digital, which is not read by people who don't have TVs. That's what the media does to me.
There's the issue of convergence in the media. Why do you see yourself in the race?
As a winner,
Do you believe you stand a chance?
100%.
I guess double thousand.
No, I'm not a joker. I have never joked in my life. That's why I have so many degrees and I go to school to study to come out. Even recently I went to Nairobi University to do another degree, which I didn't have to. So I don't joke in my life.
You did to prove a point, right?
Yeah, because that's me, a policeman, a chokora. I have to prove myself even to... It's only my wife whom I didn't have to prove herself to. Because she looked at me and she said, this one, let me just take this one. But everything that I do, I have to justify. I'm not man enough. I cannot win the election. I don't have choppers. I have not stolen from this country. Some are even telling me to steal so that my name can go out there. And I've told them I'm not stealing. Some are telling me I'm mad because of marijuana. I'm telling them that if I'm mad, Americans are also mad. The Brits are also mad. And I'm telling them that if the Brits and the Europeans can legalize homosexuality, then who is more mad than the other person?
Okay, so you intend to move the city rather the capital?
Let me not promise what I cannot do because I'm not a politician, but I'm a performer.
Promise what can be.
And I've always done what I've promised. For the last 62 years I've lived in this world. Whenever I promise you something, I'll do. You ask my ex-girlfriends, who will tell you that, oh, this man, akikupromise something atafanya, and I've done it. Ule aliyezaa mtoto na mimi mtoto wa kwanza, nilipromise yeye nitarudi nitalinda hiyo mtoto. Unfortunately, mtoto alikuwa mkubwa, sasa singebeba lakini nilisema wewe ni wangu. So I always promise what I do. Like I promised marijuana, as soon as I take over, and I have enough MPs in parliament, pass legislation, I will be the first one to grow it in Uhuru Park. Hiyo maua inagorowiwa sijui Nairobi sijui nini atukurembesha barabara. Hiyo yote itakuwa ni bangi. Ndio ukikimbia usubuhi unafuna kidogo ukienda mahali unaenda. Kwende huko kabisa. Ajali barabarani hata alikuwa anakunywa anavuta bangi. Mlevi. Ama mama ametoa mimba because alikuwa anavuta hiyo kitu ku cool down, mtoto ametoka. Wakwende huko. I've spoken about education, spoken about healthcare, spoken about developing infrastructural development to the states, which will have counties within, will have state highways, federal highways, and county highways, so that we shall develop planning in that if it's a road passing from one state to another state, that will be a freeway whereby those passing on those roads will be policed by the federal police on freeways, on highways. Those in the counties, we shall have the county police to man the situation there. And then we shall also have the state police. So we shall devolve our police units into different categories so that we can have service rendered to the people. Similarly, in health service, we shall do the same. Now when it comes to education, definitely parents will have a bigger say and a bigger role as to what they want their children to be. But we shall no longer go for the smart education, smart card education. We shall have to go into technology, utilize technology, advance ourselves to become, to be exporters of technical education to other parts of the world. When it comes to nursing, we shall have a different system that we can export our nursing. But more importantly, that I forgot, people in the diaspora. We shall have a special ministry to cater for the diaspora, with the people from the diaspora playing a big role in economic development in terms of, like, number one, the Minister for Diaspora will be from the diaspora. We put people like Jeff Koinange, who have been in the diaspora, worked in the diaspora, know what the diaspora means, and who are here. Instead of going to appoint the Itumbis, who have no idea of what the diaspora means. I will have also people from the diaspora to chart their ways forward, to give them tax rebates, invest in Kenya for the first 5 years, do not pay taxes, but if you can guarantee employment, you can guarantee certain investments. And I would also like international corporations who come from specific countries to at least include 3 Kenyans from those countries who are actually living in the diaspora, who are experts in that area of economic development, so that we can develop our country with our own people from outside, so that we can encourage them to participate. And above also, the new constitution, in my opinion, should include any Kenyan born outside, or a Kenyan who has been given dual nationality, will be fit to run for president. On the constitution, allowing the diasporas to participate in the elections fully up to the president. Because right now well, I have not read those things, but I've seen some of them for willing Kenyans now to write things for me, and if they're writing things for me, it's okay. But they have not come to me to apart from writing what I've said on the press. Okay. I have not given a list outside, so there's no need to verify what I have not given. You know, there's a lot of propagandas and people write what they want, but who cares? No, I'm not confirming what has not come from my office, because anything that might have gone out has not gone out yet. So why would I verify what has not gone out?
Are you holding too much until it's very late and you bad thing with so much information?
No. I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm releasing what I'm releasing, which is for public consumption.
How about the face? Because this is the face of listening to the face.
No, that's my secret. Yeah, I cannot release wheelbarrow today and run around with it. And when I see that I've lost ideas, then I go to avocados. I don't work like that. The information I've given is enough. My manifesto is very simple. I've just given it and it has gone viral. Do I need to have to give a lot of things? Maybe tailor what I've given to expand on it.
What I want to do to confirm whether it's true, the one that I have anyway.
No. I'm not going to look at it because I've not given.
No, the very last question. Are you prepared for the roll ahead?
For the?
Are you prepared?
For what?
The roll ahead. Being the
Yes, definitely. Yes.
How prepared are you?
I cannot tell you. I'm prepared. I'm ready. That's why I'm talking to you. Then when I finish with you, I'm going to... When I finish, I have other people waiting for me in the countryside and even abroad. So I'm prepared.
In a scale of 1 to 10, how prepared are you?
I'm prepared 10 to 10. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.